you join me in the pledge? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have someone here now.
Do we?
Yes, we do, right?
Okay.
From the Humane Society.
We have minutes to approve of October the 17th. Have we had a chance to look those over, and is there a motion to approve those?
We have had a chance to look them over, and I move that we approve the regular session minutes of 10/17/2018.
Is there a second?
It would be you.
Okay, me, second. Thank you.
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey,
Aye.
Mr. Ubel.
Abstain.
We have a presentation, if we're ready, from the Animal Care Humane Society. Executive Director Carolyn Evans.
Yes, thank you. I didn't realize I was first up.
Oh, first up, 2018 year-to-date report. And do we have a
Is there,
PowerPoint?
do I do the slides or is someone else driving for me?
I don't know.
You like, we can drive for you if you want.
How do
Want to
okay.
drive?
Either way you'd like.
Oh, I
Loves
don't
to
know.
drive the
Check that license.
computer.
Okay.
We may not be on, we may not have got the system on, or we may have.
Most
should
of
be
our
ready.
staff can't
B
drive
for
50.
B for black, is that what's? Yep, that was
There
it.
we go. Okay. So is there a clicker or something that I can do, or is it this? No, that's the microphone. How about the space? Can I try this? Am I gonna?
Either the,
Forward arrow.
There we go.
or-
It works. It works. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here today to provide you with an update on what we've been doing at the shelter since January. When Clermont Animal Care decided to make a bid on the contract to run the county animal shelter, our aim was to bring transformative change to the county. Our intent was to build on past improvements and to expand the capacity for care so that we could serve more people and more animals of the county. I need to take, you didn't think you were going to be here for a history lesson today, but I do need to take a few minutes to talk about the history of animal sheltering to put this kind of transformation into context for you. So 150 years ago, animals weren't viewed as companions the way that they are today. Packs of dogs ran rampant in the streets, and in New York City, where the humane movement was born, animal control consisted of paying kids to round up stray dogs and drown them in the Hudson River once a week. That was prior to animal sheltering in the humane movement. In the late 1800s, we saw the formation of humane societies to establish humane treatment for animals, marking the formal beginnings of the humane movement in the United States and the beginning of animal sheltering as we know it today. It was a daunting task and times were hard. Save some and kill the rest was truly a step forward for animals at that time, and saving the few that they could became the norm for many, many decades. 100 years later, people in animal welfare decided that it was time to change the status quo. And you saw the birth of the no-kill movement. And we get a lot of calls and questions, and I'm sure you do too, whether or not our shelter is a no-kill community, or a no-kill shelter. So the animal welfare movement started to challenge the status quo. And we primarily saw this with private no-kill shelters, and these were ones that were able to limit their intake. It was a good thing for animals, and it began to shift our collective consciousness about the value of every single animal. But the idea was limited in its scope, and many of the organizations just didn't have the resources and the reach to roll this out on a large scale. So lots of animals and lots of people weren't served with this model, because these no-kill shelters really maintained their no-kill status by limiting the intake. So it was, they were able to pick and choose the animals that were coming into the shelters. And I want to say this because I don't mean to, I don't want to discredit or marginalize the work that was done by those shelters at the time, by those no-kill shelters. I'm not trying to suggest in any way that that was a bad thing, but it just wasn't enough. It was a good start, but it wasn't enough to tackle the enormity of the problem of the animals that were dying in our shelters. And in order to end the killing of shelters in our country, the no-kill model needed to be rolled out to municipal sheltering. So most recently there has been a shift, and in our movement there is a belief now that progressive animal sheltering that challenges the basic long-held assumptions and the beliefs of traditional animal sheltering, it is now possible to save them all. And we've seen the shift from no-kill shelters to no-kill communities. And we're seeing that happen in municipal shelters. And it's important to look at this because this is exactly what happened in Clermont County. So for many, many years, we had this natural progression. And for many, many years, Clermont County, just like the rest of the country, was following this historical model of animal sheltering. And then about 4 years ago, with the shift and changing the contract, the no-kill idea was introduced in Clermont County. And again, it was a good thing for animals. It was a move in the right direction, but it simply was not enough. What we see now is a shift from a no-kill shelter to what we're trying to do today, which is really transform to a no-kill community where we're saving all healthy and treatable animals. So I just want to share a few basic statistics from animal sheltering across the country, and you'll see that across the board there is a 68% save rate for animals in our shelters. 30 years ago, just 30 years ago, 17 million animals were dying in our nation's shelters. Today that number is down to 2 million. So it's a huge step, and we've obviously come a long way, but there's still a lot of work to be done. The hard part is in those last numbers, because 32% of animals that are entering our shelters today are still dying in our nation's shelters. And you can see that the prognosis for cats is much more dire than for dogs, and the data that we see supports what we see happening here in Clermont County. The difference is that animals are not dying in our shelter today. The difference and where we're falling short is on services. So at the Clermont County shelter, we get so many more calls for assistance today for cats than we do for dogs. And we just can't provide the assistance that's needed due to funding and capacity constraints. And it's really frustrating. It's frustrating for the people on the other end of the phone. It's frustrating for your constituents and for us and for our staff to not be able to provide those needed services for cats. So I'll come back to that later. But please know that as an organization and as a shelter and as a county, our focus is going to have to shift to finding ways to help cats and cat owners in the community, because it's a problem that's not going to go away on its own.
Just to touch on that for a second, is one of the limiting factors on that is that the dog side is taken care of by obviously the revenue that's associated with dog license and the fact that felines are not licensed.
Correct. And so that's the funding that's coming in. At the shelter, we don't have funding to care for cats. We're doing so, but there's nothing that's covering it from a county perspective.
Okay.
So I want to go back to this notion, and this is why I'm focusing on dogs, because that's what our contract is for. But I want to go back to this notion of the shift from traditional sheltering and its long-held focus on intake. And this graph shows the dog intake at the Clermont County Animal Shelter over a 5-year period. So in this chart, you'll see in the purple is the 2013. This represents the time when the shelter was really operating under that old traditional model of animal sheltering of serving them all. Hence, you saw those really high intake numbers. In 2015 and 2017, when the shelter changed hands, the focus shifted to the no-kill approach. And while this was an important step forward for animals in the county in terms of saving lives, you can see that the intake numbers and hence the number of people and animals served really suffered when that switch was made. So in the blue, the 2018 numbers are our numbers, which reflect our goal of combining these two approaches of high intake of the traditional modeling and a commitment to life-saving with that no-kill approach, which really combines to make no-kill municipal sheltering possible. And I can tell you that we are not where we want to be in terms of intake. We simply have not built up the infrastructure and the support yet in 9 months to be able to do that, but we are actively doing so. We're building our infrastructure, we're trying to raise funds, and we're generating community support to be able to sustain the necessary programs to maintain our commitment to no kill while keeping that philosophy of serving more animals. So this next chart shows our intake at the shelter. compared to this same time last year. And this represents a 44% increase in the intake of dogs, and we've more than doubled our intake in cats. What you don't see in this data are the numbers of animals that the shelter takes in that are never brought into the shelter. Today, there are hundreds of more animals that are being served with other programs outside the four walls of the shelter. So for instance, this month alone, we've worked with some cat caregivers and provided free spay-neuter for more than 35 cats to provide help in managing the population control of outdoor cats. We've worked with 4 hoarding situations this month alone, and that was for 3 cat hoarders and 1 dog situation. Spay-neuter remains a key priority for Clermont Animal Care because it represents a more longer-term strategy of limiting the number of animals that are reproducing that are going to never end up in the shelter or on the streets. So I want to go back to that first chart that I showed you a minute ago, which reflects our commitment to taking in a higher number of animals. That's the one on the left. On the right, that chart shows our live outcomes, or in percentage terms, it's what we refer to in the industry and on our website as our save rate or our life-saving rate, and that's the number of animals that leave our care alive through either adoption, transfer to one of our rescue partners, or returning to their owner. And you can see that our model of sheltering really has yielded the highest number of live release rates for dogs, even when you compare that to the 2013 numbers when the shelter was taking in more than 50% more dogs than we are. We're able to outcome more live, higher live release rate for dogs than any of those years in that 5-year period. So this model that we're following really shows that by combining the approach of serving them all with higher intake and saving them all with progressive life-saving programs, we're truly working towards that no-kill municipal sheltering model where we're creating a no-kill community right here in Clermont County.
Carolyn, I don't want to interrupt, but
Yep.
Commissioners, I pulled our data from, so this is the year-end data on dogs that were euthanized in the county. And the number is pretty staggering. 504 dogs were euthanized year-to-date in 2013. And I pulled the data with our new organization, and through September, we've euthanized 18 dogs. And 16 of the 18 were medically necessary. So we started the no-kill initiative in 2013, 2014. And so in 5 years, we've come quite a ways.
Yeah, we've come very far. So we are definitely, as they say in our industry, we're no-killing it. But we're not providing that service or extending that safety net to as many people in the community as that need that service, that need the service of the animal shelter and the ability to help animals in our shelter when that is the case. Now, we definitely focus on trying to help animals stay in their homes, and we'll do everything that we can to help a family keep their animal and keep it out of the shelter. But there are still those times when people need our assistance and need animals to come into the shelter, and we can't serve them all today. We do take in all the strays, which we are required to by contract, but we're not taking in all the voluntary owner surrenders in the community.
And just to touch base on that, what would be some of the reasons that if a owner wanted to voluntarily surrender an animal that we wouldn't take it? Is there any underlying reason, or?
There's a couple of different types of reasons. One, if we just don't have the space, we don't want to be killing animals for space, and we don't intake for convenience. So if we have a pet owner who just decided they no longer want their pet, we try to provide them support and services so they can rehome the animal on their own rather than bringing that animal into the shelter. As much as we care for and love the animals like our own, a shelter is not a place for an animal to be long term. And if it's an animal that we don't think that we're going to have success finding a home for, because that, even the family is saying this animal is dangerous and it's bitten and we have all these problems with it, or we're not going to, if that pet owner who loves that animal isn't willing to give that animal the time and attention they need, it's very unlikely that we're going to find someone in the community to walk into our shelter and adopt that animal, and we don't want it to languish in a shelter forever. We do have situations where people have medical conditions that they can't afford treatment for. If we can, and the animal has a good prognosis, we will provide treatment for that animal. But if that animal is at its end of life and really it just needs a humane ending of its life and they can't afford to do that, we will pay for that euthanasia, so that animal can be surrounded by love and surrounded by that pet owner in their final moments. But we're not going to bring it into the shelter because, one, we don't euthanize at the shelter, so we would simply be bringing it in and then transferring it out to a veterinarian. We'll just have them take that animal to a veterinarian themselves, and we'll pay that cost. But yeah, so it's situations like that. We had a call this week from someone whose roommate moved out of town and left the animal and said he was going to take the animal, and he moved across country and never came back. And so this guy's stuck with an animal that he never intended to have, and we took in that animal. But in some cases we can't because we just don't have the space. But like I said, if it's a dangerous animal or one that's going to have difficulty being placed, the shelter is not the best place for that animal.
Okay.
So, and I will point out, we get calls every single day for community cats, for people that say there's a stray cat in my yard. We don't take those cats in. Many times those cats are community cats. They're either being cared for by someone else in their neighborhood that they're not aware of. But if the animal is not, we'll take an animal that's sick, injured, and suffering. But if it's not, if it looks to be healthy and thriving, pulling that cat out of that community doesn't make a lot of sense, because they're already being cared for, they're thriving, and there's somebody who's providing care for that animal. And for us to bring it into the shelter and lock it in a cage and hope that somebody comes along to adopt it, it's not the best place for an animal. And many times that animal is owned, and if we're sort of like kidnapping it. If we take it, it's going about its day, and someone says this animal needs help, and they pick it up and bring it to the shelter, it's never going to find its way home at the shelter.
Yeah.
Because what we don't see is people calling in droves for cats that are lost, because people typically think their animal just wandered or got hit by a car or got taken by a coyote, so they're not looking for them. So if you move them out of their community and where they live, they're never going to find their way home. So best practice is to leave them where they are and provide support and services, and spay neuter, which is something that we really focus on. So 1,500 animals have come through our doors and been taken into our care since January 1st, and as I said, many hundreds more are being served through some new life-saving and diversion programs. And we are doing that while maintaining a combined save rate for dogs and cats of 96%. And I want to take a moment to reflect on that number, because it's a number that we're really proud of. It's more than a number. This number represents lives saved. It's a number that's made possible only through the hard work and dedication of our staff and our volunteers and of our fosters in the community, who open their doors and help us expand our capacity for care by being able to take in more animals that need help, but then housing them in the community until we can find homes for them. So it expands our 64 kennels. It's unlimited if we can get the community behind our efforts to provide foster placement for animals until we can find homes for them. It's also reflective of our donors, our financial donors, and people that provide services for us, not services, supplies for us regularly. And also it's reflective of the support that we get from you, from the county, and for your belief in us and our vision for the community and for the animals of our county. So I want to thank you and thank everyone who's had a hand in making us achieve this progress in 9 short months. And I'll say that this kind of feels like the end of my presentation, but it isn't, because I think it's important for us to talk about the scope of services and talk about what we're doing to achieve those numbers, and revisit really the presentation and the commitment that we made when we bid on this contract of the services that we were going to provide to the county. So I want to look at that for a moment. The contract requires that we intake and care for stray dogs and provide warden services for the county. In addition to that, we are strongly focused on spay and neuter, with our eye on those long-term benefits of controlling the population of unwanted animals. We have programs in place to help keep pets with their families. We accept a higher number of owner surrenders than has ever been accepted before, both for dogs and cats. And we're working on, I should say, has been accepted during this focus on no-kill. And we're working on programs and partnerships to manage the high number of unowned cats in Clermont County. So if I go back to, these are the exact slides that we shared with you when we bid on our contract. Spay-neuter. I can't overstate the importance of spaying and neutering animals in our community. While it doesn't have an immediate payback, spaying and neutering is critical for any focused effort to humanely control the pet overpopulation in a community. So that's where our long-term focus is. We have a strong commitment to spaying and neutering at Clermont Animal Care. Prior to forming Clermont Animal Care, I was actually the board president of United Coalition for Animals, and I helped open the region's first and only low-cost, high-volume spay-neuter clinic for cats and dogs. So we have strong ties and a robust partnership with UCAN. And this helps us provide easy access and for spay-neuter for the residents of our county. We have a minimum of 1 monthly transport from our shelter to the UCAN clinic, which makes it easier for Clermont residents to access this clinic, which is located all the way across town in Camp Washington. We also have access to a $100,000 grant that extends $20 surgeries for cats, and this is money at the clinic that is designated for Clermont residents only, and we're doing everything we can to get the word out so people in Clermont know about that, that discounted rate at the clinic and also our ability to transport from the shelter. In addition, we have opportunities for free spay-neuter for pit bulls. This is another program that is being run through the UCAN Spay-Neuter Clinic, and it's a program that was started and initially funded by our board president, Robin Tackett. And I believe that they've provided more than 1,000 spay-neuter surgeries, free spay-neuter surgeries for pit bulls since inception. And finally, we're currently working really, really hard to secure funding for another partnership that would bring a spay-neuter mobile clinic on site to our shelter once a week. And that would provide easier access and more opportunities for Clermont residents to get their dogs spayed and neutered at an affordable cost with easy access in Clermont. So that's our commitment to spay and neuter. I've switched gears to helping keeping pets with their owners. And this is something that we consider a win-win-win because it's good for the pet owner who wants to keep their pet. It's obviously good for the pet to stay in their home, and it's really good for us to keep that animal outside of the shelter if they're in a loving home, rather than bringing them into an already overcrowded shelter where then we have to turn around and try to find a home for them. There's already a family who wants that animal. They just need some sort of service to help them keep their animal. So these are the diversion programs that we have in place, and we're continuing to build. And again, it allows keeping an animal in a loving home. And when we can make that happen, it just makes sense. There's no reason for that animal to come into the shelter. Some of the programs that we offer for diversion is food assistance, low-cost microchipping to help an animal find their way home. And just in general, we're knowledgeable of a lot of resources that people in the community may not be aware of that are out there. And since we are the county shelter, and we're the first place that most people turn to when they're looking for assistance with their pets, we can serve as a resource and a referral service for people and point them in the right direction when they're in need of support. It's worth mentioning, I talked about microchipping, that microchipping is a safe and permanent form of identification for an animal. So if any of you have animals and they're not microchipped, you should consider doing it. If our animal control officers pick up an animal in the field and they can locate the owner and that animal's home while they're out in the field through that microchip, that animal never has to come into the shelter. We can give them a free ride home and deliver them right to their front door and keep them out of the shelter. And we offer low-cost microchipping at the shelter.
What's the cost of that, Karen?
$25.
$5?
$25.
25.
And we do some specials throughout the year as well. We partnered with one of the police departments. I can't remember which one it was now. I'm sorry, I can't remember that. But it's something that we'll do in the summer again. We just trying to get out in the different communities where they don't have access to those services. Owner surrenders, we talked about this. This is really the difference that you see in our intake numbers, because owner surrenders are the voluntary intake at our shelter. So across the board, when you had different organizations managing the shelter, all of us had to take in the owner surrenders. But where we have the variation and the intake numbers change is when we decide whether or not we're going to take an owner surrendered animal. So you saw it really high for many, many decades, but they weren't able to keep that life-saving rate up. Then you saw it dip when there was a commitment to no kill. Now we're trying to even that out and have a combination of bringing in animals, but also saving them at the same time. So in 9 months, we have done this to the tune of about 250, 275 dogs and about 300, 350 cats. This represents an intake increase from owner surrenders for dogs as compared to last year of 635% increase. So we really are helping people that are at their, that they've tried other options. We've provided diversion services, and that was not the answer to what they needed. They really did have to surrender an animal. We've increased that number by 635% since last year. I'll tell you, it's still not enough. There are still people that we're not able to serve, and it's heartbreaking to have to say no to those folks. We see it a lot with cats. So the last commitment that we made was about cats, feral cats in our community, and also I will add just community-owned cats. I saved this slide for last because this is the area that we know that we have the most work to do. Again, one of the main reasons is we just don't have funding to be able to provide services for cats. We're doing what we can, and while we do have a robust program at the shelter and in foster for cats, it's not enough. We've begun to address the needs of outdoor cats. I told you about some of the hoarding situations. We are working with community-owned cats. We're really just getting started with TNR. Maybe you don't know what that is. Trap, neuter, return is where there are community cats that are living and thriving outside in a community. We can't intake them in the shelter. We don't have enough cage space. We probably get requests for 100 cats a day trying to come into the shelter. We can't do it. But when they can live outside and there's someone taking care of them, our priority is to make sure that they are spayed and neutered so they're not reproducing, so that population can be controlled and those animals can be cared for. So we're currently pursuing grant opportunities for cat care, but we really need to find a way to incorporate the care of cats into our shelter operations in a strategic and a sustainable way. I got to tell you, this is not news to anybody, but people in our community care about cats just as deeply as they care about dogs. These animals deserve our help, and as I mentioned earlier, it's a problem that's not going to go away on its own. It's something that we need to come together as a community to address and find a way to manage the population growth before it gets too far out of hand. We're doing it with spay-neuter, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. So here, you guys with me? This is the fun part. This is the cat care we talked about. This is the fun part. These are a few faces of the people and the animals that have turned to the shelter for help in our first 9 months. A family that was struggling to make ends meet and needed temporary food assistance. There was a family that had 4 dogs and they had lost their home. They were living in their vehicle. They turned to us. It was in the summer where there was sweltering heat. The people were able to go into a building or go to school and work, but the animals were in the vehicle, and they realized that for the safety of these animals and the long-term well-being that they couldn't keep their animals, and they made the heartbreaking decision to try to surrender them to the shelter. What we knew is this family loved their animals and that this was a temporary situation. And for us to take in these animals and try to find a home for them didn't make any sense, so we housed them temporarily until that family was able to get back on their feet, find a housing situation that would allow them to have their 4 animals, and we reunited that family with their animals after several months. These are just some pictures of the types of animals that we see at the shelter every single day and that we treat. They come in as strays. They've obviously been on their own for a long time. They've been injured or they've been neglected. And these are some before and after pictures. These animals were all treated and placed in loving homes. In addition to strays, we have animals that come in through our animal control officers. They're seized in cases of cruelty, neglect, and abandonment. We treat these animals. We treat their wounds. We heal their broken spirits, and we work really hard to find placement for them. They have all sorts of medical needs, and we provide care. So when I talk about having voluntary intake, we do. This is an animal that we could easily, turn away if it was an owner surrender, but we have taken some of these animals and we provide the treatment. Sometimes it's through our own operating budget, sometimes it's through the kindness and generosity of our community. We are not afraid to ask for funding. We're not afraid to run a GoFundMe account for an animal like this. So these are two that had eye enucleations. We had to take those eyes out. And some shelters, an animal like that might not survive, but we're committed to providing care and treatment for that animal and then finding a home for them. And this last one is Faith. Faith was really special. She had been found in East Fork Lake Park, where a lot of our stray animals come from, unfortunately. A lot of people either lose their animals or leave their animals there to fend for themselves, and sometimes they find their way to us and sometimes they don't. Faith was lucky. This gentleman on the right found her. He actually was hiking, and he said something drew him to walk further into the woods than he ever had before, and he found her, and she had been caught in some sort of a leg hold trap and ripped her leg out of there. And she just had a will to survive. And so he called us, and we immediately rushed her to care and provided emergency surgery, and she had to have her leg amputated. But she's now been adopted, and she's living a happy, healthy life in a loving home. So our commitment at the shelter is to provide every animal that comes through our doors access to top veterinary care, and to make their time with us as comfortable and as enriching as possible, and ultimately to find them a home of their own. Our goal is to expand this and expand our capacity for care so that we can do this for more animals, either in our shelter or through our diversion programs out in the community, but to provide that kind of support and have the money and the funding and the resources and the people to be able to do that for more animals in Clermont County who need our help, because it truly takes a village. We know that your constituents desire a no-kill approach to municipal sheltering, but they want one that doesn't fall short on services. It takes all of these things together, leadership at the shelter, private and public funding, and strategic partnerships, and commitment from the county, from the government, to support these types of services. And when we do that, we will have a true no-kill community in Clermont County, which is what we're working towards, and what we're seeing. It's certainly within reach. And we just want to thank you for the opportunity to introduce this kind of sheltering to Clermont County and giving us the opportunity to serve our community. Thank you.
Carolyn, thanks for doing what you guys do.
Thank you.
Commissioner Humphrey,
Yes, sir.
I just want to announce that our all hazard sirens have gone off, correct, John?
Yes.
John, I'm going to give you a few minutes just to
No
report.
hazard sirens have been sounded in Clermont County. We don't know why they went off. There's no emergency. Our local comm service provider is looking into the situation. As soon as we get an update as to why this occurred, we will bring the board up to speed.
We've got Kathleen sending out some information on Facebook and Twitter.
Okay, good. Thank you. We have a public hearing starting at 11, but it's not 11 yet. So we have a consent agenda that was mailed to us. Are there any items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda, or may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as prepared?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as shown on October 24th, 2018.
Hold on a second.
Who's second?
Second.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. We continue on page 5 with item number 10.
So item 10, we had to correct the minutes of the regular session of August 29th. This is relates to change order number 1 for the extension of the completion date for the Record Center. It indicated 2018, and it should
Wrong
read
year.
2019. Yes, sir.
So do we have a motion to approve that consent, that change? Item 10.
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 11 is a resolution to pay our bills, Resolution 171-18, in the amount of $3,681,771.94. Do we have a motion to approve item 11 in Resolution 171-18?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Judith?
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 12.
Good morning, Judy Eschman, Department of Job and Family Services. Item 12 is my recommendation with the concurrence of Thomas J. Igo, County Administrator, to appoint the following representative to serve on the Area 12 Workforce Investment Board for the term identified below pursuant to Section 107 of the Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act. Justin H. Phillips is a business manager with Laborers Local 265 for a term to begin October 24th, 2018 to end June 30th, 2021, and he will fill the Workforce Labor Representative seat for the Area 12 Workforce Board.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the appointment of the Area 12 Workforce Investment Board person as contained in item 12?
I'll make a motion to approve item 12.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion?
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Abstain.
Thank you.
You serve on that board. Yep.
And I recruited him.
Okay.
So.
Item 13.
Morning, I'm Lyle Bloom, Director with the Clermont County Water Resources Department, and item 13 is a recommendation to adopt resolution number 172-18, resolving to amend the rules and regulations of the Clermont County Water Resources Department to revise Articles 1 through 5 in and as it relates to compliance with a November 16th, 2016 notice of violation from Ohio EPA, contribution of department funds for separation of foundation drains, water shutoff valves, and booster pumps as outlined in Exhibit A, with all existing provisions in conflict herewith be and the same are hereby repealed effective immediately following Ohio EPA's endorsement thereof pursuant to and in compliance with 6103.02 and 6117.01 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Okay.
So in 2016, it was actually September 2016, Ohio EPA did a pre-treatment audit inspection of our IWP, Industrial Waste Pre-Treatment Program. We've got an acronym for everything, so that's IWPT for that program. And they found that it was not in compliance with some of the state and federal regulations that are required for those programs. So in November of 2016, they issued a notice of violation. We responded to that notice in December of 2016 to let them know that we were going to revise the regulations and have those revised regs back to them by June 30th of 2017. We did that. Ohio EPA was a little busy, they said, and they were understaffed, and it took them about a year to finish their review of the revised regulations. There was some back and forth between us and Ohio EPA as well to clarify some of the changes. So through email, May 21st of this year, they emailed and said they were okay with the revised regulations. So our next step is now to present them to the board. If approved by the board, EPA will do a 45-day public notice for a comment period. And once that's passed, then they will be officially adopted.
Now, going back and taking a look at this, what was the root here? I mean, how did we actually get into a situation where we're in, a notice of violation territory?
Well,
what did we miss, or what didn't we do?
In 2012, we updated these regulations to be compliant with the revised federal regulations, and we thought we did everything right. We went through the same process. EPA did their 45-day notice, and we were good. There were some staff changes at EPA, so we had a new regulator who maybe looked at them more thoroughly or with a different set of eyes, and that person had some changes that they thought needed to be made to the regulations. And in order to make those changes happen, they had to issue the notice of violation. And a lot of the changes, if you went through them, they were changes to definitions or adding definitions of certain things to the regulations. But really, the way we're going to do business on a day-to-day with our industrial customers and our industrial waste pretreatment program, it's not going to change. So it was a lot of, I'd say, administrative changes in there.
Were there any hardware changes that had to be done as a result of this, or any increased inspection, or?
No, no, there's not going to affect any fees, and actually it'll give us the ability to possibly reduce some inspections on some industrial customers if they fall into specific categories.
And I thought there were a couple instances there where some of the analytical work that was done for some of the industrial inspectors showed a particular constituent that should have been issued some type of a violation or something. Was that correct?
Not part of that, well, there was, in that notice of violation, if you're talking about the original notice of violation, yes, we're supposed to, and that was separate from the changes that need to be done in the regulations. But when there's a violation, we have to publish the violation in a local paper.
Yeah.
But there's no fines associated with that. They are just forced to then make corrections to their pretreatment facility in order to reduce their discharge of whatever constituent it is to our wastewater treatment plant.
I just kind of looked at that as like they kind of caught it on their audit, and I don't know, had we caught that, we just didn't do the,
We might not have caught that we forgot to publish a violation in a paper.
Okay.
They caught it, we fixed it. I think we went back and did the notification. It was all somewhat minor in nature, I would say.
and does EPA have do they have the ability to fine us as a government entity?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
But they didn't.
Right.
They did not, no.
It's a good thing. Do we have a motion to adopt Resolution 172-18 as contained in item 13?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Judith?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 14.
Thanks, Lyle.
Got several here.
Craig Reisner, Clermont County Engineer's Office. Item number 14 is a recommendation of Patrick J. Munger, County Engineer, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute record plat number 6293086 for the replat of lots in Union Township. This is the Mamie Klepper subdivision, replat of lot 22, and this is the part of the TID highway project for Klepper Lane extension.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept the replat as contained in item 14?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
Mr.
Judith?
Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 15.
Item 15 is a recommendation of Patrick J. Munger, County Engineer, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute record plat number 6293087 for the following subdivision located in Batavia Township. It's Lexington Run Champion Crossing Subdivision, Phase 4C. This is a one-lot subdivision, and there are no street or sidewalk bonds associated with this subdivision.
Do we have a motion to execute the record plat as contained in item 15?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Judith?
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 16.
Item 16, a recommendation of Patrick J. Munger, County Engineer, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute record plat number 6293088 for the replat of lot in the following subdivision located in Miami Township. It's the Robinson Fourth addition to Miamiville, replat of lot number 67.
Okay, do we have a motion to execute the replat as contained in item 16?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Judith?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Abstain. Item 17.
Item 17 is a recommendation of Patrick J. Munger, County Engineer, with concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute record plat number 6293089 for replat of lot number 65 in the following subdivision in Miami Township. It's Eagles Point at the Oasis, Section 2, replat of lot number 65.
We have a motion to execute the replat as contained in item 17.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Judith?
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 18.
Item 18 is a recommendation of Patrick J. Munger, County Engineer, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute record plat number 6293090 for the replats of lots in the following subdivision in Miami Township. It's Woods of Miami Trails, replat of lot number 604, 620, and 621.
Do we have a motion to execute the replats as contained in item 18?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
Mr.
Judith?
Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Yubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 19.
Item 19 is a recommendation of Patrick J. Munger, County Engineer, with concurrence of Thomas J. Agel, County Administrator, to execute record plat number 6293091 for the replats in the following subdivision located in Miami Township. It's Paxton Village subdivision, lot numbers 12A, 13, 14, 15, 15 and a half, and 16A.
15 and a half.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept and execute the replat as contained in item 19?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Judith?
Mr. Yubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 20.
Item 20 is our last replat today. Recommendation of Patrick J. Munger, County Engineer, with concurrence of Thomas J. Agel, County Administrator, to execute record plat number 6293092 for replat of lots located in Batavia Township in its Maywood subdivision. Replat of lot numbers 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15, and 16, and part of a vacated Hickory Alley and part of vacated Davis Street.
Okay, do we have a motion to execute the replat as contained in item 20?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Judith?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Yubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a lot. Item 21.
That was kind of a pun, wasn't it? It was a lot.
Yes, that was kind of a pun, but unintentional.
Pretty good.
It's the recommendation of Julie Fry, Director of the Clermont County Common Pleas Adult Probation Department, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, the County Administrator, to execute an addendum to the contract of professional services by and between the Board of Commissioners and Northland Treatment Services, which was approved on February 14, 2018, relative to the provision of the medicated assisted treatment services, which represents an increase in the amount of $50,000 for a total revised contract amount not to exceed $100,000, with all other terms and conditions of the contract for professional services to remain in full force and effect, and all of which it's concert with a subsidy grant agreement with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, Division of Parole and Community Services, Bureau of Community Sanctions, relative to the Justice Reinvestment and Incentive Funding for Clermont County Common Pleas Adult Probation, which was previously ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on December 20th, 2017, and is contingent upon the release of a purchase order. So we're requesting we're addending the contract by an additional $50,000 to provide services.
Do we have a motion to execute the addendum to the contract for professional services as contained in item 21?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Judith?
No, this was a particular one that I asked for some additional information on that was provided. So thanks very much for following up on that. And it gave me a chance to review and become familiar with what the services were that we were asking for. So I appreciate that.
No problem.
Judith?
Mr. Yubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 22.
22 is a recommendation to appoint Stephen Haynes, Clermont County Public Defender, to serve on the Facility Governing Board of the Community-Based Correctional Facility and Program, and this term is 3 years, beginning 11/8/2018 and ending on 11/7/2021.
Do we have a motion to reappoint Stephen Haynes to the Facility Governing Board as contained in item 22?
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Judith?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Yubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 22.
On September 27th of this year, the board received the annual application from the Young Women's Christian Association of Greater Cincinnati, which is I'm going to call it the mothership for the YWCA located on South 4th Street for the operation of the House of Peace. These are for the release of funds collected for the issuance of marriage license and the release of funds to be collected as additional fees for filing of each new action or proceeding relative to annulment, divorce, or dissolution of marriage. It's for the calendar year 2019. These are pursuant to and in compliance with 331334 and 2303-201D of the Ohio Revised Code. The House of Peace is a shelter for victims of domestic violence, for which the funds to be collected for calendar year 2019 are estimated not to exceed the amount of $41,497 heretofore collected in calendar year 2017, and this is all pursuant to and in compliance with Section 311335B of the Ohio Revised Code. Disposition of this application, which must be received by no later than October 1, must be done by November 15th, and we have received all the necessary documentation. It's been reviewed by the prosecuting attorney, and we are looking forward to expediting this to remove it from your calendar of things to do.
Good, thank you very much. Do we have a motion to approve the application of the Young Women's Christian Association and the release of funds as contained in item 23?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, this is one that I particularly delved right into when I saw that it was asking for a commitment from Clermont County to 898 Walnut Street in Cincinnati, Ohio. So Judy helped graciously run it to ground so that I could get some assurance there that the money that was being collected was actually benefiting Clermont County, Ohio. So.
Good.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 24.
Item 24 is Commissioner Humphreys traveled to Columbus for 3 days for the County Commissioners Association of Ohio Annual Winter Conference. Total expenses not to exceed $1,052.33.
Do we have a motion to approve the travel? Is
So moved.
there a second?
I'll second the motion. A
Discussion?
quick question. I noticed we have other $100. I haven't seen that before, but maybe I haven't noticed.
It's
Parking, okay.
parking and miscellaneous.
All right.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Abstain? Item 25.
Item 25 are the first set of our financials for this week. We have supplemental appropriations in the general fund requested by the auditor in their general office and regular salaries, a $3,000 increase, and in their general office fringe benefits, $500 increase. This is for a temporary part-time person to cover while they have someone out on extended leave.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the supplemental appropriations as contained in item 25?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Judith?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 26.
Commissioner Humphrey, could we, I believe we have an add-on for supplemental if we want to do it while she's at the podium.
Okay.
Okay, the add-on came to us from the juvenile court. It is hold on, wrong one. It's an increase in the Title IV-E, Children and Youth Services Fund, regular salaries for $15,000. And the same increase in that same fund for fringe benefits of $1,500. This is the foster care fund where they maintain the 4E revenues and they support the program through those. They have a shuffling of people they're putting more effort into it than they had originally appropriated. That fund does have a $1.2 million balance that's available to be appropriated, and this will use $16,000 of that.
We have a motion to approve the supplemental appropriations as contained in the add-on.
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Judith?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
And Mr. Humphrey, I don't want to interrupt you
There's
again.
another
but
one.
Pushing up against the public hearing, and we have some staff here for items 28 through 30. And if we want to move those up in the next couple of minutes, we can try to get those in before the hearing,
What numbers again?
28 through 30.
28 through 30, so we'll skip to 28.
Yes, and I'm going to give John Cascaden a chance to give us about a 1-minute summary of our 911 system before Brandon introduces those 3 items.
All righty.
Morning.
Morning.
Since the inception of the 911 system in 1988, we've been hosted by Cincinnati Bell as our 911 provider. As you're aware, in January of this year, Cincinnati Bell notified the tri-state area they would no longer be providing hosted 911 solutions and that they would close their doors January 31st, 2019. That caused the 3 communication systems in Clermont County, Union Township, Northeast, and Clermont to get together and came up with a solution which we presented to the board a couple months ago called CallWorks. And as a result of us purchasing CallWorks on a 10-year plan, we're here today with this motion. What we need to do is, CallWorks is the phone system that provides the information from the 911 calls. Cincinnati Bell will provide the lines up into the building, but from the building to the system, we have to purchase that. So we have to purchase admin lines again, and we also have to purchase a wide area network which connects all 3 dispatch centers together, providing redundancy to the current 911 system. So if we were to lose one link, say at Union Township, all theirs would automatically come to us and vice versa. So we have a double redundancy to the 911 system, which we do not have today. And because we have to purchase that stuff separate of the hosted solution, there's an increase in the cost. And that's what the resolutions are about today. And the reason we're asking for 10 years is because the phone system is set up on a 10-year system. If we were to change providers during that 10 years, we would lose the 911 system and our administrative lines while we change providers. We cannot afford to be out of the 911 system for any length of time, let alone change of providers midstream. There are clauses in the contract that allow for equipment upgrades during that 10-year period if the technology changes. There's also a clause that allows us to move to EZNet if that becomes available, and that's built into the contract at no cost. There's also an out clause that allows us to get out of the contract if for some reason we need to get out of it. So I just wanted to give you that information prior to the reading of the proposals so that if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them afterwards.
I asked that question and you got back to me, and I'm satisfied with the answer, and I'm satisfied with the discussion today, so.
Thank you. Brandon?
Morning, Brandon Hepner, Director of ISD and TTD. It is my recommendation, with concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to authorize Edward H. Humphrey, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute Addendum 2450665-A to the Master Service Product and Licensing Agreement and Equipment Maintenance Addendum by and between the Board of County Commissioners and Cincinnati Bell Technology, previously ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on 8/24/2016 for the provision of hardware, software maintenance, and support services for the Clermont County Department of Public Safety Services to extend the effective date of the contract for an additional 10-year period from 7/31/2019 to 7/31/2029, and add Section 38 entitled Technology Migration to the scope of agreement with the other terms and conditions of the aforestated Master Service Product Licensing Agreement and Equipment Maintenance Addendum to remain in full force and effect.
I'm just wondering
Gonna
whether,
back up and do
sorry.
28. What,
Yes, 28.
we didn't move and second and vote on that, I don't believe.
We did not. I just want to ask, I believe that the effective period will be 8/1/2019, since the current 3-year contract goes from August 1 of 2016 through 7/31/2019, and I just didn't want to have to come back and correct that. Is that correct?
So that 7/31
Should be 8/1/2019. Sorry, Brandon.
And that's a change to 29, item 29?
20.
It's in 28.
28.
Okay,
The rest of them are good.
okay. So do we have a motion to execute the addendum contained in item 28?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Judith?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. And then do we have a motion to execute the service agreement as contained in item 29?
So moved.
Should we read that?
I think so.
Didn't we just read that?
No, we did
just read
28.
Okay, I'm sorry.
John just kind of gave a
I'm
synopsis.
sorry, I thought we read
Synopsis, yeah.
29.
It's a recommendation of myself with concurrence of Thomas J. Igo, County Administrator, to authorize Edwin H. Humphrey, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute service agreement number 024506665-B by and between the Board of County Commissioners and Cincinnati Bell Telephone Company for Prime Advantage services relative to the provision of administrative lines for the CallWorks telephone system at the County Commission, Clermont County Department of Public Safety, located at 2279 Clermont Center Drive, at the rate of $600 per month for a period of 120 months or 10 years, for the amount of $72,000 effective for the period through 7/31/2029, in concert with the Master Service Products and License Agreement and Equipment Maintenance Addendum by and between Clermont County and Cincinnati Bell Technology Solutions, previously ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on 8/24/2016, and effective for the period 8/1/2016 through 7/31/2019, and subsequently extended through the addendum 02450665-A thereto on 10/24/2018, pursuant to and compliance with the terms and conditions specified therein, and contingent upon the release of the required purchase order in concert with requisition number 0005625 dated 10/12/2018.
Okay, do we have a motion to execute the service agreement as contained in item 29?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Mr. Ubel,
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey.
Aye. Item 30.
Recommendation of myself, with concurrence of Thomas J. Igo, County Administrator, to authorize Edwin H. Humphrey, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute service agreement 024506665-C by and between the Board of County Commissioners and Cincinnati Bell Telephone Company for Metro Ethernet services relative to the provision of the network call connectivity for 911 CallWorks telephone system at the Clermont County Public Safety System Services at the rate of $6,295 per month for the period of 120 months or 10 years, for the total amount of $755,520 effective for the period through 7/31/2029, in concert with the Master Service Products and License Agreement for the Equipment Maintenance Addendum by and between the Clermont County, Ohio, and Cincinnati Bell Technology Solutions, previously ratified by the Board of County Commissioners 8/24/2016, and effective for the period 8/1/2016 through 7/31/2019, and subsequently extended through addendum 024506665-A thereto on 10/24/2018, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions specified therein, and contingent upon the release of the required purchase order in concert with the requisition 00005623 dated 10/12/2018.
Okay, do we have a motion to execute the service agreement as contained in item 30?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? I
Yeah.
have a question.
Go
You-
ahead.
You
No,
go
you go ahead.
first.
You
You
go
go
ahead.
first.
Just talking about, I know we've already talked about it before, but just for our edification, we talked about a delta in this service as far as this represents, Suki, is that correct? About $30,000 a year in additional costs, operating costs?
And is that overall including all three motions that we passed today?
It's the, well, the first one didn't have any costs associated with just
Okay.
the master agreement, so yes, the other two.
Okay.
Okay.
$30,000, that was my question exactly. $30,000 upcharge change.
Compared to what we're paying Cincinnati Bell today, or whoever for these services, Cincinnati.
Cincinnati Bell hosted services
So $30,000 annually or monthly?
annually.
Annually, okay.
So the requested annual budget will go up 30,000.
Budget is up $30,000.
Okay.
And one final thing, these changes do not affect the Clermont County 911 plan or funding it in any way, so.
Any other discussion?
The only other thing was that John said he would stay here the next 10 years to administer the program. So
Yeah, I bet he did.
We'll
Thought
do
that
that.
was a good.
Let's talk.
Even if it's from afar.
Right.
That can be purchased. Is that it?
Roll call, Judith.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. That gets
Commissioner
us-
Humphrey, if we
Thanks,
do the
Brandon.
public
Thanks,
hearing,
John.
And then
Yes.
get back to items
we'll
26 and
come back.
27.
Yep. So we have a public hearing. We have a request for Board of Batavia Township trustees to vacate all of Union Street situated within the Maywood subdivision located in Batavia Township pursuant to section 5553.045 of the Ohio Revised Code. Today is the date, time, and location for the public hearing. On the request of the Board of Batavia Township trustees to vacate all of Union Street situated in Maywood, as I indicated before, pursuant to Chapter 5553 of the Ohio Revised Code. If anyone is present that is not signed in, please sign in now. And the county engineer, Craig Reisner, will give us the details. Were you-
Greg
Everybody
Reisner?
signed in? Sorry.
Nobody had signed in.
Okay, thank you.
I'll remember to sign in. But I'll remember to sign in. Today we have a proposed vacation of all of Union Street located in Batavia Township. It is, as it appears in Mawood subdivision, Clermont County Recorder's Office, Plat Book B, page 34. This is from the 1860s. This street has been in non-use for the last 150 plus years. The proposed vacation is 606 feet long. It begins at Old State Route 32 and heads north to a dead end at the railroad tracks. This is in the location of the old Ford plant.
You said in the location of the old Ford.
It's close to it's on Old 32 south of the old Ford plant.
Okay.
As far as we can tell, this road has never been improved or used as a public road. It's currently being used as a parking location, a storage location for vehicles. We received a resolution from Batavia Township in support of the proposed vacation. I received no other correspondence, either in favor or in opposition to the vacation. At the time they provided this application, the proposed vacation would create 5 landlocked parcels. And in my report, I recommended that a combination replat of the parcels west of Union Street be approved prior to consideration of the vacation. That occurred in session today. The replat of lots in Maywood subdivision combined all the parcels to reduce the landlocked capacity of those parcels
To zero.
to 0. Proposed vacation does not reduce Batavia Township road mileage. They are not receiving any funds for maintenance of that section of Union Street. The legal description and plat were provided by J.T. King, engineer surveyor. The legal description and plat are acceptable for vacation purposes.
I bet we have other things to clean up someplace, but this is good. Any questions?
And this vacation will
Right.
take it to whose ownership?
Batavia East Fork.
It'll be divided down the middle into 2 parcels. Batavia East Fork Storage LLC is the owner on both sides of the street.
Okay.
So they will receive the acreage, and it's 0.344 acres total. They do have a plan to come back and combine these parcels, but that plat has not been approved yet.
Okay. They're going to take that into this plat shown on here now.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thanks, Craig. We have time now for proponent testimony. Anyone that would like to speak on behalf of the vacation? We have time for opponent testimony. Anyone that would like to oppose this change? Anyone else that would like to comment either way? Okay. Have we received any correspondence? We have not, Mr. Reisner said.
The only correspondence received was the initiation of the actual public hearing today from Batavia Township trustees.
Okay, do we have anything else that should come before us on this issue? If not, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion, Judith?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. The Board of County Commissioners will proceed to deposition. And I think we may have a draft resolution
You do.
prepared.
I have prepared a draft resolution if the board would like to consider it. It's resolution number 17318, and it is the recommendation to adopt that resolution determining to vacate all of Union Street situated within Maywood subdivision located in Batavia Township, Clermont County, Ohio, as described therein pursuant to and in compliance with Section 5553045D of the Ohio Revised Code.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt Resolution 173-18?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the hearing. We've already concluded that, but that concludes the issue. And we come back to the agenda.
Page 10.
Item 26.
Item 26.
Item 26 authorizes Commissioner Humphrey to execute a letter of intent to renew the contract with Clermont Senior Services during calendar year 2019, and this represents the third year of a 5-year option therefore. This is just the letter of intent to renew. It's a 60-day renewal notice that is required by the contract. The contract will then come shortly after.
Okay, do we have a motion to
Extension.
execute the letter of intent with senior services as contained in item 26?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Judith?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Item 27.
27 is similar, and this authorizes Commissioner Humphrey to execute a letter of intent to renew the contract with Clermont Animal Care Humane Society. This is for calendar year 2019, and this represents the first of 2 additional 1-year renewal options.
Okay, do we have a motion to execute the letter of intent as contained in item 27?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. Does that get us through our agenda?
Executive session.
I'm sorry?
Executive session.
Yep. We do have a need for executive session pursuant to Section 121.22G3 and G4 of the Ohio Revised Code to confer with prosecuting attorney regarding pending and imminent litigation and to review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other items and conditions of their employment respectively. Do we have a motion to go into executive session under those 2 sections?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Okay?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. We'll be in executive session back shortly. Okay, we're back from executive sessions. No decisions were made. We've reached the public participation portion of our meeting. Is there anyone?
We have 2 add-ons.
Oh, we have 2 add-ons. Yes,
Yes.
Did we change?
I'm sorry.
the dollars?
thank you.
Or we didn't sign
Keep
this
me on
one?
my toes.
This is just the,
I'm Jim Maloney, Administrator for the Sheriff's Office, and I'm here as an add-on to request funding for the collective bargaining agreement that we have with our jail supervisors that was just completed. It's a 3-year contract. Dollar-wise, as you know, they were non-union prior to this. Now they are union. But the money that we had set aside for them in 18 will just flip over and, as you'll hear in a minute, to just another account to pay them. But that's what I'm here to do, is ask for the funding for the corporals and sergeants over in the jail. That contract, so you know, was in effect April 18th of 18 and will run through April 17th of 2021.
Okay, what would you like to have us move?
Approve the request.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the request for the corrections officers
I'll make that motion.
funding? Okay,
I'll second.
discussion?
The recommendation is to approve the request from Sheriff Leahy. Is that correct, Judy?
Yes.
For funding relative to the collective bargaining agreement by and between the Clermont County Sheriff and the Fraternal Order of Police, the Ohio Labor Council, representing the correction corporals and correction sergeants effective for the period 4/18/2018, as Jim has talked about, to 4/17/21, pursuant to 4117.10, the Ohio Revised Code, in compliance with the terms and conditions specified herein.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any
Mr. Yubel?
discussion?
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Mr. Yubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Second add-on.
Yes.
And our second item?
The second item, Jim already mentioned what has to happen because bargaining unit salaries are a separately appropriated object within the jail corrections org. We're going to move where they currently are appropriated out of regular salaries in adult detention to the bargaining unit salaries. And this will be a move just for the final payrolls of this year, $150,404.12.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve that action?
So moved.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Yubel?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Public
Get us-
participation.
Okay.
And Stuckey, before you go, payment of bills was $3,681,771.94.
It's on the higher side, is it not?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like,
waiting for that
it was
question
up there
a
pretty
little
good.
earlier.
There it is.
$1,375,000 is in there as our annual payment to the Transportation Improvement District.
Got it.
We're at the public participation. Anyone wishing to talk to us today? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
He didn't pass the bills.
Second.
Mr. Yubel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter? Mr. Humphrey?
Aye. That concludes our business for today. Thanks for joining us, and God bless.